The Columbia Broadcasting System and its affiliate stations coast to coast present
Baseball, Beer, and Barbecue.
The 0-2, swing and a miss, strike three, blew it past it.
Discussing baseball, good drinks, and food.
And you got your honey mustard?
I love mustard.
With Ted Hicks, Todd Vandenberg, and Lee Vowell.
Well, big deal. I am very professional.
Every Saturday morning at 10 a.m. on the Happy Hour Network.
And we are here. Wait, you're used to hearing Cheryl Lee Ralph's voice. But Cheryl Lee is not here this week. And he's going to be so pissed when he hears me.
Yes, he will be.
Oh, my goodness. Lee is not here this week. We are sorry to the faithful listeners of the Lee Val Network. He's not here. We've taken over the show this week. Now, all joking aside, I'm Ted Hicks. Todd Vandenberg is also on the line. We want to welcome you to Baseball, Beer, and Barbecue. We have a special, very, very special guest host this week. His name is Mr. E.J. Christian. We're going to be bringing him on in a second. But we want all of our listeners to like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, Baseball, Beer, and Barbecue, and check out our blog site, baseballbeerandbarbecue.com, or maybe even check out the happyhournetwork.com, where we speak about the National League, the American League. We talk about the Mets, the Mariners, and Mr. Vandenberg's favorite team, the Detroit Tigers. The other teams we don't really even talk about. We kind of talk about the Dodgers too. But this is all so new to me. Being the showrunner this week, I want to some people that we should thank. Those folks that we want to thank is XRP Radio. We want to thank NGSC Sports that powers us on the iHeartRadio app. And they also leased us EJ for the last hour, for the next hour or so. We want to thank RF Sports Radio. We want to thank Back Sports Page, Arena Sports Network, and I-95 Sports Network. Other than that, Todd, who else would you like to thank?
I don't want to thank anybody. I'm just here because I have to be here. No, as always, our most popular fan, and that's what I mean, our most popular fan, because none of our other fans are popular. Computer Repair NC, that is popular at CJ Computers NC on the Twitter, 919-653-8496. If you have any problems whatsoever with your computer, they will fix it. They will turn your Yugo into a Ferrari, my friend. Computer Repair NC, 919-653-8496.
And without much further ado, we want to open up the crowd because we're going to have a very special guest coming on, Mr. E.J. Christian, Earnestly Speaking Podcast, all the above. We're going to bring him on after the applause. EJ,
good morning, fellas.
Welcome,
good morning.
Welcome.
Well, first off, Chad,
is now open.
First off, Chad, you already failed because the first thing when Lee does his rundown, he says Tweeter, not Twitter. So you didn't do Tweeter.
Yeah, you're right. I did fail. Oh my God, Lee is probably cringing right now.
Yeah,
EJ,
I got your back,
so great.
Mal. I got your back, brother.
EJ, it's so great to have you on.
Thank you.
Guest host. We got a lot of real estate to cover, but want to let you know, love the Earnestly Speaking Podcast. Love the Shooting the Shit monthly episodes with you, Roz, and G. I usually don't curse on my show because I'm the Christian during Wednesday nights, 8 to 9 o'clock, but this is kind of like no holds bar. So happy to have you here. I guess there's so many things that we have to talk about, so many things that we have to run down. Something I quickly added to the outline is called 5 Things That We Won't Be Talking About Today. Because, we just want to make sure everyone knows we're a news-driven show. We're a data-driven show. 5 things that we won't be talking about today. Number 5 is Weatherman Sam Champion's new science-driven talk show called 23.5 that starts on March 22nd. We won't be talking about today. Indiana Jones 5. Indiana Jones 5 is coming out. Are you guys psyched?
Don't care. Don't care about Indiana Jones. Sorry, I'm not a fan. I did like Temple of Doom. Other than that, not really a fan of the Indiana Jones thing. I know I'm the minority there, but
That's a Crystal Skull. Are you kidding me? And one of the same writers? No.
What was the last one? 1989? The last one he did, 1989?
I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't even tell you. That was number 4.
1929.
1929. I think Harrison Ford is going to be 78 years old when the movie comes out. So I can see him jumping and running and doing everything else. I mean, hey.
Yes.
Topic number 3 we won't be talking about today is the the Times Square New York street performer that's dressed as Donald Trump that lets you punch him in the face for $5 or allows you to piss on him for $300. We won't be talking about that today.
Why can't we talk about that?
Trump has
not
his
talking
own
about
segment. We're not talking about it. Number 2, St. Petersburg jury awards Hulk Hogan with $115 million in his sex tape case against Gawker. We won't be talking about it.
MVP. He's the MVP this morning. Hulkamania, brother. What a wild, brother.
Let me tell you something, brother. Last week, Hulk said, Terry Bollea said, well, they asked him about his penis size. And he said, Hulkster has a 10-inch penis, but Terry Bollea doesn't. And I was just so caught up by that because not only did he go third person, he went fourth person.
Yeah.
He was comparing penis sizes.
That's beyond the rock. He just
The
number one thing we won't be talking about this week is Kanye West is opening a pop-up shop for the Life of Pablo merchandise that you can find in New York City this weekend only. I don't know if anyone's heard the Life of Pablo. I haven't. We might have to reach out to G. Steele for that. But his pop-up shop where you can buy his gear. Hey, we won't be talking about those things. But there's a lot of things that we will be talking about. I think we go right now into our hot topic. There's something that's happened in the past, with Adam LaRoche and Kenny Williams from the White Sox. It's something where it's getting very, very nasty, where someone could say, hey, I got $13 million or $14 million on the table, and I'm out. I don't know your guys' takes on that. I'll go with Todd first. Todd, what's your thoughts on Adam LaRoche and his battle against Kenny Williams and the right to have his son in the clubhouse and being told to dial it back and with it being in his contract or something like that? What's your take?
Well, and that's the thing. When you said in the right for his son to be in the clubhouse, and a lot of people might think he didn't have a right to have his son in the clubhouse. He does, per his contract. He made a point of making sure that was in his contract. And I don't think it was spelled out exactly as how much time, et cetera, but that's actually in the guy's contract. So when Ken Williams says, hey, we got to dial down on this, and he didn't say, hey, kid can't be in the clubhouse, but you got to dial back. I totally understand why he would say, hey, you know what, I'm done because this is important to me. He was with his dad when his dad was in the majors for several years, Dave LaRoche. He wants to do the same thing. He wants to bond with his kid. And yes, it's a great privilege to be able to do that, but it's a privilege he negotiated and he earned due to his previous play. They thought he was worth it. They thought he was worth putting that rider in. And the fact that apparently Kenny Williams has told 3 different stories to the team as to why this is no longer acceptable, that's the big story. The big story isn't so much LaRoche retiring, because I wouldn't be a bit surprised to see him rescind that. when Kenny Williams gets fired over this. And that sounds ridiculous, but at this point, who knows? It may happen because Chris Sale is really burned about this. And I don't know, right. I'm sure you guys have read his comments, but have you seen him? Oh, my God.
No, I haven't seen him, but, yeah, from the tea leaves, he looks really, not just him, a couple other players look upset about it. I wasn't aware, actually, that was under his contract. I mean, that changed a lot of things. It's in his contract. Well, hello, it's sealed it's sealed there, man, pretty much. And but the thing is, the overall situation, though. I mean, aside from the contract part, I can see both sides of the story. I can see, LaRoche, wanting to be there, but I could also see the idea of the management wanting, to be able to keep things a bit, more adult, I guess you will. There could be reasons that we don't know why they don't want his kid there as often. Now, did they say that they didn't want him there at all, or they didn't want him there as much?
So dial it back.
It was as much, right, to dial it back. But the story now is moved on from that incident, and it's moved on to, how Chris Sale is reacting to it. And you can see he's about ready to explode. He is so angry when he's talking about this, and you can tell he's struggling to keep from just really going off about it. The problem is that they don't trust Kenny Williams now.
Nope.
That's what it's evolved into, and that's a major problem. It's way past LaRoche and his kid.
This is also a PR disaster too. This is
oh
kids,
my God, yeah.
You know what I mean? We're talking about kids and not be able to be with it has that angle of the father and son thing, not allowed to be together in the clubhouse, and it's like a warming story, and you know how it is in the public, and it's a PR disaster for the White Sox now.
So
absolutely,
I gotta get personal here. EJ, is your son's name is Eli, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Go Giants.
So
yeah.
Okay. So let's just say we did a show. We do a show every week, and we're getting paid millions upon millions of dollars. And we hear your son in the background, or we hear noise in the background. But in your deal, you had it worked in that, hey, every once in a while, Eli's gonna stop in and give us a shout out on the show. And in 1 week, Todd and I just said, Todd, Lee, and myself just said, hey, you know what, EJ, yeah, we don't want to hear him anymore. But it's already worked out in your deal. And this has been the going case, not just with this team, but with his previous team. It's been worked into his contract, and it's been worked into your contract. When you feel a certain way about the organization, as if they've betrayed you or lied to you,
of course.
And then you take it to the point where, well, it's really not the organization, it's one individual that you negotiated your contract with. I mean, would you harden your stance? Could you see yourself just walking away?
Well, $13 million is a lot of money, though, first off. I mean, for us common people, of course, it's like, whoa, wait a second, $13 million? Oh, you sure you don't want your son at the dugout? Well, but here's the thing, though. Like I said, I wasn't aware of this. It's in his contract. And if management wants people, if management expects players to honor their contracts, then should that be working the other way too? I'm just saying, it's in his contract. Different story. See, that's the thing. That's the part I wasn't aware of this morning until Todd brought it up. It's in his contract. Whoa, okay, that's a whole new ball game right there. So at that point, Kenny Williams needs to suck it up and let that stuff lie, man. Now, the only thing I will say is this: how did this get to this point? Like, did Kenny Williams just wake up one morning and say, you know what? And LaRoche, screw you. I don't want your kid here anymore. This is because he wanted to say that, because he wanted to show some power. I have a hard time believing that happened. It might have been some players who may have actually complained to Kenny Williams. It's possible, not saying names maybe, and telling him that listen, we don't want the kid here as much. And Kenny Williams, of course, representing one of the players. There's actually a report here from the USA Today, according to Bob Nightingale, that said he's spoken for others in the whole thing. So I mean, like I said, I think we haven't even reached the tip of the iceberg on this whole story. I think there's more that we don't know yet, and the truth will come out at some point.
Gotcha. Well, we're going to move on to the next segment right here because, I mean, it was a great topic. I expect to hear about it on the Earnestly Speaking podcast. You're definitely going to hear about it on Late Night Parents because it's, it touches so many different topics here. But want to go into, is your bracket busted? Me, for one. Last night I was at the Barclays Center, and I had a great time.
Bragging on my texted me yesterday. I saw the text.
Oh, my goodness. I text you guys the tickets. I text pictures of my ugly mug and my son, and it was a great night. I didn't go to session 1. I went to session 2 with Stephen F. Austin and with Notre Dame pulling out victories. But I got to ask that question. I'll start off with Todd. Is your bracket busted? I mean, tell us about any
is it
types
busted?
of...
Are you actually asking if it's busted? It's scorched. I think I have Kansas left.
Oh, my goodness.
Oh, my God. Yeah, I picked some upsets because I actually picked Hawaii. I'm not patting myself on the back. I mean, that's like, I made 3 picks correctly. Yay for me. Yeah, it's insane. I mean, tied for the most upsets ever in the first round, and the most double-digit seeds ever. So yeah, what was it? I think and a major bank, because I'm not going to give them free publicity, but a major bank sponsors a bracket. They have 1 perfect bracket left after the first round. And this is, there are probably millions of people that entered that. And there's 1 perfect bracket after round 1.
Wow.
So what does that tell you? I mean, that's insane.
Yale? Todd, did you take Yale?
I did not take Yale, and I wish I had, because I literally sat there thinking about it for 5 minutes, and I finally didn't go. You did? Oh, wow. There you go.
Yeah.
It's absolutely, and we talked about this a year ago. How the game is changing, and because more and more there's the top talent leaves very early, and in a few cases never even goes to college, and how parity just increases, and like last week I said, this is the year 16 beats a 1, and of course that didn't come close to happening. But how far away are we? I mean, holy crap. 13 upsets out of 32 games? That's nuts. And is it good for college basketball? Absolutely. It's awesome. And Vegas loves it because they made a lot of money on that Michigan State game.
What's your take, EJ? Are you still in it to win it, or are you done?
Well, I mean, I went 11-5 yesterday. I went 13-3 day 1. So I was, it's busted. It's scorched. It's done for. Michigan State, obviously, I mean, everybody had Michigan State winning at least yesterday. First off, not only they had Michigan State go to the Final Four, I had them winning the whole damn thing.
Yeah, I did too.
Get a game out of this whole. I mean, it's one of those things where it's like, okay, I see what's going on here. Well, this is a different year, But the game, I said it on record on social media the last couple of weeks, and I haven't. This is actually the first year since I've watched college basketball that I really didn't watch a lot of the games this year. I actually didn't. I spent more time, and Ted, you know this. I spent more time TV binging on my time off on shows than watching college basketball. And now I'm kind of regretting it now because, I know obviously the college basketball season is almost like a waste. We wait for March to come, but good Lord, I'm sorry. This is the best, and no knee jerk here, no knee jerk at all here. This is the best postseason soiree in any league, NFL, NBA, NHL. This is the March Madness, and these first 2 days tell you why. I mean, those endings yesterday in the Iowa game, the ending in the Texas game last night. I mean, come on, amazing basketball. The parity is becoming a thing now in college basketball. I think we're getting closer to a 16-1 upset at some point. I say that within the next 5 years there will be one.
Gotcha. Hey, I'm not I don't follow college basketball. I just attend games and smile and take pictures and want to thank Men's Dove Care for coming through. But if there's a possibility, do you guys have any Final Four picks? Do we want to go there? Is that even possible?
No, it's impossible because, like, basically 2 of my Final Four picks are already gone. You know what I'm saying? I mean, 2 of my Final Four picks are already out the tournament. Texas and Michigan State, who I had in the Final Four, are gone.
Wow.
Yeah, I got
like Todd said,
the Midwest killed me. Yeah, the Midwest killed me. I had 3 picks right in the Midwest. Everything else I did pretty well, but it's like, wow, that's just, no, I'm not picking anything. I will predict there will be 4 college teams in the Final Four. And some of them might be Division I. So other than that, we'll see.
Okay.
That's as far as I'll go. That's as far as I go. I don't think the Miami Heat will make the bracket because they'll probably get upset by Iona, even in a second chance bracket.
You say Miami Heat? Because they play NBA basketball. No kidding. I'm a Heat fan. No Heat trash talk. I'm a Heat fan. You guys know that. So, yeah.
You know, I forget. I'm on today with 2 Floridians, and man, we can't bash the Heat. Okay, I'll remember that in the NBA section. Want to move real quickly to NFL free agency. Are you happy about your team's efforts? You know, just overall, I just do want to mention, I know Lee's not here. I know he's listening somewhere, and I want to get his name correctly. Russell Okung, the offensive tackle. I know he's right. Getting. Yeah, I mean, I just want to throw out there, like, he was listening to Salary Cap 101 or Jimmy Housel for his contract. He didn't have an agent. Are you guys well versed in that deal? Or are you guys happy with that deal? It's kind of like 2 contracts in one. Could something like this be the new norm, or is it just the NFL and everything's a 1-year deal?
I, for one, am not well versed in the deal.
Oh, okay. Okay. So
was it 5 years, $42 million? Some of that?
Yes. 5 years, $42 million. No money guaranteed. It's basically a 1-year deal, and after that, if the Denver Broncos are happy, then they kick in the 4 years part of the deal. So he negotiated a 5-year deal with no guaranteed money that he can be cut at any given time.
And he had no agent. He did it himself?
He did it himself.
You know, another player who did his own deals was Dante Culpepper. He actually was another guy who didn't have an agent, did his own deals as well. I knew that.
So do we think something like this is the new norm? Or are players going to get to the point where, hey, I don't want to give my 5%?
No, this is not the new norm, because most players are not. I hate to say this, they're not smart enough to go into negotiation room and know what the hell they're talking about.
Well, I think
it's not the new norm. This is an anomaly.
Okay.
Yeah, EJ's dead right. Absolutely right. I mean, with all the guaranteed money that's been thrown around in free agency, and this guy gets none.
None.
That kind of proves the adage about, you know, you don't want to be your own lawyer, you don't want to be your own agent. I mean, obviously it's not important to him because I'm sure he knows that exists. He's been around long enough, and for him just to. Obviously, he doesn't care about it, but that's really bizarre. No guaranteed money at all. Wow. I mean, I hope he stays healthy. I hope he performs. That would be great. But whew, that's nuts.
He's basically betting on himself. He's basically betting on himself. So, I mean, hey, if it works out, kudos to him. I'm rooting for him, though. But, hey, this is why agents exist. They do what's best for you because look, they try to get paid, too. The same.
Right. Mm-hmm. Right. Todd, are you happy with what's going on in Dolphin World?
I have no idea what's going on in Dolphin World, so I don't know if I'm happy or not. I mean, if all these moves pan out, yeah, I'll be very happy. But I mean, taking people, you know, how many guys have they signed that underperformed last year? Like virtually all of them. and if they come around, yeah, they'll have a really good team. But will they? I mean, it's just, to me, it's just the classic Dolphin thing. Is like, let's make sure we don't keep the 25-year-old talent. Let's get some 30-year-old talent. I don't. And the whole disaster. They were certain that they had C.J. Anderson, and Denver decided, no, we're going to keep him. And then they lose out on Chris Johnson, which thank God they did. But holy crap, what on earth are they doing? Which is fine because they didn't know how to use a running back anyway. Like, we got Lamar Miller, one of the best. He's literally one of the 10 best backs in the NFL, but there's no way to tell because the Dolphins didn't play him. Like, oh, no, we can't run him. Oh, my God, he may pick up yardage for us. Oh, that's a fucking disaster. Let's put that ball in the hands of the guy who's the wide receiver, who is now our quarterback. Which, in a way, I don't like saying that because I think he actually can be decent at times. But, man, it's scary when the whole organization has been scary ever since they decided Don Shula wasn't good enough to coach, basically, and they went through the Jimmy Johnson debacle, who is extremely overrated because they absolutely raked the Vikings over the coals and got their whole team for one player. And to me, Johnson was never that great a coach. I mean, he's a really good coach, but he's not that great a coach. I think he proved that at Miami. And ever since then, I'm surprised, DJ, you and I haven't coached at some point because God knows we could do as good as some of the guys they've had in there.
Yeah, basically, you saw like I listen to a lot of sports radio down in Florida. I'm down that I'm probably more south than you are, so I listen to a lot of sports radio in Miami, and believe me, you saw like every caller that called into a show, every talk show host that hosts a show talk about the Dolphins. It's just another extension of that because the Dolphins have been a travesty the last almost 2 decades now, and and look, I've always been critical of Stephen Ross in the past, but I'll give him credit for this. He at least opens his wallet. He's not cheap. He tries. He does try, but ultimately, I think the scouting's an issue. I think the front office. I don't think they have the people in place. I mean, Tannenbaum is. I don't know. Is he gonna turn this thing around? I don't know. It's like the same old story in Miami. Look, I like the Dolphins. I live here, so I've learned to like them because of the hometown team. But you have a team like the Heat, for example, who do things the right way. It's like, okay, look at the stark differences now. This is a football fan, I agree, but it has flipped a little bit in the last 15, 20 years. In terms of the which team gives fans the most consumer confidence, and clearly the Heat. The Heat have done things the right way for the last 20 years with Riley and company. So, the Dolphins have work to do, man. I mean, look at that. I know they're trying. I don't know what they're thinking with the whole Olivier Vernon thing versus Marlon Williams. Now, I will say this though, Olivier Vernon. I don't know a lot about him. And he went to my team, Giants, actually. A lot of money they paid for him. We'll see how it works out. But the Dolphins have a lot of work to do, man. They got a lot of work to do.
They always do.
EJ, what's your thoughts on the Giants, real quick?
It's a lot of money. Cool. I'm at the point now, Ted, where I've really truly embraced the way the Patriots do things. I understand that you have to spend money to get great players. But I've now turned into the guy who says, okay, free agency. Most of the teams that win in March aren't even in the playoffs in January the next year. Most of those teams aren't even playoff teams because they overspend. Those guys who get paid who get overpaid, in my opinion, end up either underachieving or getting hurt or whatever it may be. I've started to really embrace the way the Patriots do things and the Ravens and teams that do rely a lot on scouting and making great value plays. And the Giants spent a lot of money. They did on some really good players, but this is a sport where one hit changes everything. And I just don't get overexcited about free agency like I used to because I know overall the teams that quote unquote win free agency don't do nothing in the winter. So
my good friend Bucko Bruce wrote an article about 3 or 4 years ago. I mean, dead set. He's a Buccaneers fan, and it talked about the Buccaneers winning in March, and I think the Bucs that year went 2-14 or something like that. So, valid points that you make. Want to touch NBA?
Oh yeah.
I mean, a question. I mean, and all these topics, all these questions, you can hear on an Earnestly Speaking podcast, which is a great show because there's certain points you go into football, certain points you guys talk basketball. Great show. I want to throw it right there. Get the record. Will they win more than 72 games? I'll go with EJ first.
I think they do it, man. I think you see, and it's funny. I was worried about this weekend because they played Dallas last night on the road. Which, by the way, one of the 6 losses was in Dallas back in, I think, December, January, early in the year. Granted, without Steph Curry. They're doing a road right now in Texas, the Mavericks last night, which they won, and then tonight's game against San Antonio, the big one. You know, and I saw that was one of when looking at the schedule like a month ago. I was like, okay, well, this could be a little bit shaky here because you're in Dallas, you're in San Antonio, both teams vying for position in the playoffs. You know, of course, San Antonio, doing San Antonio things and trying to win number 1 seed in the West. You know, and so far they've passed one of the tests. You know, so I think they get it done. I just think they just need 10 more wins. You can see the light at the end of the tunnel at this point now. For them to really not do this, they got to lose another 5 more games, and you're saying that to lose 5 more games in a span of like 15, they haven't done it all year long. So why would they start doing that now? The only thing that can derail this whole thing for the Warriors is honestly is A, an injury, or B, Steve Kerr actually prioritizes rest for his players moving forward. But even then, Steve Kerr can say he wants to rest his players, but San Antonio's only 3 games back. You can't rest your guys. So keep trucking along, Golden State, and get this record because I hate the Bulls anyway, so good.
Hey, EJ, what's your thoughts on the Thunder? Will they just always choke in the fourth, or is it just random? Do they do it on Saturday night on ABC, or is it just the law of averages?
Well, you know the old saying, when someone comes to habit, it's a habit. I mean, they have, 13 blown leads in the fourth quarter this year? The sample size is actually large enough to start criticizing it, And they're a great team. They are a great team. Obviously got 2 of the 5 best players in basketball, and Durant and Westbrook. But at the same time, you're not beating Golden State or San Antonio doing this in the fourth quarter. Hell, you're not beating Cleveland doing this in the fourth quarter. I think it's a problem. I don't think it's random. I think it's something that they need to correct before April. And, if they don't, they may lose early in the playoffs than they realize, because this is something that I think comes down to, lack of ball movement, lack of cohesion. And I think OKC needs to figure out a way to find some way to get guys involved. I think what happens, too, is that you have a situation where, in the fourth quarter, where there's only confidence in Durant and Westbrook to close out the game. And if they start missing shots late in games and players aren't engaged into the game, then teams find a way to come back and make things haywire for the Thunder. So they got to find a way to keep other guys involved late in the fourth quarter, because the reason why Golden State and San Antonio is so great is that you have Steph Curry, you have Kawhi Leonard and all that, but they're a team. They play as a team, and and OKC, they need to figure a way to play as a team late in the fourth. Period.
Yes or no question? Can the Raptors dethrone the Cavs in the East?
No. If you're talking about number 1 seed, no. Look, for all the Cavs drama going on, yes, it's drama, it's annoying. LeBron subtweets is annoying. I agree 100%. Let's not forget, I know, within the Steph Curry, amazement this year we experienced, and the Warriors and chasing 72 with the Spurs. Let's not forget LeBron James is probably the best player in the world. Let's not forget that. And LeBron James is also one of the greatest, playoff performers we've ever seen. So, And the East has improved this year too. It has improved. Toronto is a very good team. I'm not sold, completely on Toronto yet until they actually win a playoff series. But look, LeBron is LeBron, man. LeBron is still great. Say what you want with LeBron James, but he is still, one of the greatest players ever played this game. He's certainly one of the greatest players in the world today. Still, even with Steph Curry doing what he's doing. The Cavs is too good. I mean, the Cavs are good. Now, I will say this though: if this chemistry stuff we keep hearing about with the Cavaliers do linger into April and May, then I can see maybe a team like Miami. I can see a team like maybe Toronto if they really are for real, or even Boston, giving the Cavs problems. But look, it's the Cavs. It's the Cavs conference to lose. Period.
Who's to blame? And this question is going to go to Mr. Vandenberg. Who's to blame for the horror show with the New York Knicks? Do we blame James Dolan, Phil Jackson, or do we just put all the blame on Carmelo Anthony?
Ted Hicks.
I'm
Ted.
That's Ted Hicks, exactly.
Just kidding.
Absolutely goes on Ted Hicks. I totally agree on that. I also agree that the Warriors will get the record, and I think the Thunder does choke in the fourth. The Raptors. I think the Raptors have a good shot. I mean, they're only 2 behind the Cavs, but overall, I mean, LeBron is just too damn good. Regardless of some of the stuff he probably shouldn't say about his teammates, but still, he's too much. The Knicks. Wow, there's so much blame to go around. I think it goes on everybody. Phil Jackson has been far from the savior they expected. Dolan is, said what he is. And I think the person who gets the least blame, though, is Melo. I think he gets the least blame. And, I mean, he's shown that he's not the guy you build championships around. Now, is that necessarily his fault? To some extent, no, because he's been in kind of a tough conference before, where there were certain teams out there called like the Spurs that kept him from doing anything, and it would be really tough now because now he's got the Cavs and the Heat back in the day, and even now the Heat are still a pretty decent team, which is beyond me because I don't think the coach is worth a flip. But that's besides the point. He has to take a little bit of the blame, but it's much more on Phil, much more on Dolan than him. I'd say 40-40, 10. And then the other 10% goes on you, Ted.
Gotcha.
Cutting you some slack.
The segment that I've wanted us to get to, in lieu of, we know we do miss you, Lee. We love you. We adore you. But we want to get to the point of, yes, this is Baseball Beer and Barbecue, but we talk politics because this is the politics season. We want to talk about, real quickly, Super Tuesday 3. Yeah. How far will the Republicans, the GOP establishment, go to stop Donald J. Trump, the future GOP nominee? Or will they just give in? Let's talk about the GOP really quick. Todd, what's your initial thoughts?
Donald J. Trump, you mean? Mr. Trump? It's really kind of hard to tell. It's hard to tell because for quite a while it looked like they're going to pull it all the stops. I think a few of the party elite are giving in and realizing, okay, well, this is just how it's going to go, because for the first time, at least one of the polls showed that among likely Republican voters, he got over 50% of the people saying yes, they would vote for him, which is still pretty awful. When you barely get over half of the Republicans, that tells you something about what his chances are in the general election. But I do think it depends. It depends on how well Cruz does. If Cruz can get some momentum going and avoid getting destroyed in some of the winner-take-all states that's coming up, then they'll go full bore. Obviously, the one thing that really matters is, will he have enough delegates when he gets to the convention? If he does, well, then they're done. But if he doesn't, I think they'll put up a fight and they'll pull in someone from left field. They'll have a rerun of Romney Ryan and see what they can do. Probably, so who knows what they'll do. The thing I'm looking forward to, though, is I hope it's a brokered convention, and I hope it's not the Donald, and then he goes third party. That would be that would be totally insane, because it doesn't matter if he said he's not going to go third party. I mean, you know, we all know he says something one day and the very next day he'll say something completely different, because it doesn't matter to him what he says as long as he gets a reaction. And that's his campaign. And it's a smart campaign. It's working, obviously, so it's a very smart campaign. Why it's working is another matter, but it doesn't matter what he says as long as it incites his followers to follow him, and that's what he's getting. So, you know, ultimately it's just going to boil down. If he doesn't have enough, I think they will work out some sort of a deal, and he will not be the nominee. And who knows, they may change the rules by the time the convention, by the time they meet. Even if he does have enough, I wouldn't put it past him. I wouldn't put it past him at all.
What a mess.
EJ, what's your thought?
But the problem with that, though, is if the Republicans do really try to take over this whole process, it makes them look bad in the long term, because then the Republican Party, if the people look, and Todd, you're right, you know, winning only barely over 50% of the Republican voters to you basically said likely voters who would vote for him, you know, is not really impressive. But then again, it's still more than half. And if you're the party trying to take over because you don't like this guy, regardless of how you feel, you know, it makes the party look bad. It gives the party less confidence. They're already coming into a situation as a party under Fritz anyway. So, regardless of how you feel about Donald Trump, which, by the way, Donald Trump isn't. I've said this from day one. Donald Trump isn't a true Republican. That's why there's this mess in the first place. He's really a moderate. Like, I think he ran on a Republican ticket because he knew he had more traction, as evident by right now we're seeing. If he ran on a Democratic ticket, not so much.
Right.
But, you know, it's a mess, and the Republicans, you know, they want to take over this thing now. Well, they came in too late, man, because, you know, Donald Trump is just strengthened by that now. Say what you want about Donald Trump, man, but, you know, this whole thing is, I love this. This is theater beyond anything I've ever imagined, and we still have another 7-8 months to go with this whole election process. This is exciting, to be honest with you. This whole thing's exciting.
The only comment I want to make is every year when House of Cards comes out, you're so excited by it. And not to say that we weren't excited previously, but this season, House of Cards Season 4, was kind of dull because of the Trump effect.
No spoilers.
No spoilers, but I'm just saying, the Trump effect. The fact that we're seeing the live reality show happen, you don't have to wait for, you know, your the third week of March every year for the House of Cards to come out, because we're watching it live. Want to quickly talk about Bernie and Hillary, and then we're going to go to our interview with Al Yellon of Bleed Cubbie Blue. But I want to ask you guys the question: can Bernie catch Hillary?
No. And the reason why is the Super PAC bought Hillary a long time ago. Bernie could have the popular vote in the Democratic Party for this whole entire process, and it wouldn't matter. Hillary, you know, I guess in the Democrats' eyes, stand the best chance to win the election of the two people, which personally I don't see why. I don't know why. I'll admit I'm a Bernie supporter. I think he has a great message. You know, do I agree with all his politics? Not necessarily, but at the same time, I feel like he has a heart for the people of this country, regardless of who you are. And you know, it is surprising to me that Hillary Clinton has not just a lead, but has as big a lead as she does, or Bernie Sanders. Like, if you look at the campaigns just from the outside and perception, you'd think that Bernie is actually leading or in this race, and yet look at the delegate situation. It almost looks like a discrepancy in a sense of how big a lead she has. But you know, I'm you know, like I said, I wish Bernie was in this race. I'm glad he's not giving up this yet. I'm glad he's still, you know, fighting a good fight. But the lead is too big. Hillary is too established. The Clinton name is too big. It's pretty much just Bush 2.0 in terms of the in terms of the popularity. So Hillary will get her shot. She'll get her stuff in November. She really will.
We should have that.
And I'm a Bernie supporter too. I think he's got a chance, but it's a really small chance. He's got to pull, I think, 60% of the remaining delegates, and he's not been doing that. So, and EJ's dead on. I mean, Hillary doesn't have as big a lead among the popular vote, but it's because of the superdelegates. She's got a huge lead in the delegates. I mean, if you remove those, if you remove all the superdelegates, and if Bernie somehow managed to get that 60%, well, those superdelegates might swing the other way. But even if he does, that's such a high bar to hit, 60%. I mean, it would be amazing if he gets more than 50, because he hasn't gotten 50% of the votes so far. I mean, take the superdelegates out completely, Hillary still would be in the lead. So for him to get enough support in the remaining states, and I understand he's done with the South, which is a really big stronghold for Hillary. It's still that's a long way to go, but I'm glad that he's still in the race, because it continues to force the platform a little bit further to the left, where, in my opinion, and apparently in EJ's opinion, Ted doesn't matter, because Ted's a Knick fan, so he's insane anyway. So it needs to be a little bit further to the left, because we do need to take care of everybody, and God knows that's not happening on the other side of the political spectrum. So
yeah,
there's
and I will
shot. He's got a tiny shot, but it's not too good.
And I will say this too also, in terms of the bigger picture for the Democratic Party, it does strengthen the Democratic Party too to see this race go to the finish, because ultimately I think he will, if Bernie does lose, he will ask his voters to give Hillary support, and I think it will strengthen her campaign for the fall. So you have that, and like I said, Bernie has still a chance to to come back. Like I said, the South is over now. They're going to the more western states, which is a little more progressive. And Bernie has a chance here, but I don't know, man. Bernie has two things going against him. Number one, he's old. Okay, and number two, his policies, while they look great to a lot of people within his party, it's still polarizing as a mainstream to the mainstream, and I think that's why you have the Hillary supporters who are just, whatever, well, she's a Clinton, she's a name, blah, blah, let's just go there. So that's what Bernie has going against him, unfortunately. But I'm glad he's finding a good fight. And I think even him sticking around, like I said, sticking around this whole race, I think ultimately still strengthens the party as a whole. And I think it will give them a fighting chance to against Trump or whoever they face in the fall.
Oh, I agree. It absolutely strengthens the party, because look at the difference. When they debate issues. And when the Republicans debate, they debate genitalia size. So,
yes.
They get into shouting matches that you wouldn't allow in fifth grade. So there's a world of difference between the way the two parties are conducting the campaigns, too.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Hey, we're going to go into an interview with Al Yellon of Bleed Cubbie Blue, where we're going to review the NL Central, and we'll be right back right after this brief interview, and we're going to have one pressing Goose Gossage question, and then we're closing this baby out. We're going to start this interview right now.
We now welcome to the program the great Al Yellon, managing editor of Cubs site Bleed Cubbie Blue. Al, thanks for being on today.
Thanks for having me.
So, Al, first thing we're going to kick off with some teams that don't really matter that much in this division. We'll start off with the Cincinnati Reds. They're not going to be contender this year. Joey Votto, he's still a very good player. What does he do differently that other players just can't seem to?
Well, one of the things that Votto does really well is draw walks. So, pitchers have to work him carefully. And if they get pitches in the zone, he's going to hit them hard. So, the Reds could have traded him, I suppose, saved a lot of money, but they need to have some decent players on that team. Votto's under contract for a long time. So, that much is worth it for Reds fans to watch, but there really isn't much else to be excited about for that team.
Right. And pretty much can say the same thing about the Milwaukee Brewers. Unfortunately for their fans, of course, they're another team. They don't have a whole lot of chance of making the playoffs, especially in that division. What positives do you think the Brewers fans can get from this year?
Well, they got some young pitchers who look pretty good. Taylor Jungmann, who came into the Brewers at the end of last year, looks like a pretty good young pitcher. So, their offense is not going to be great. They traded away some of their offensive stars last year. Carlos Gomez is gone. Chris Davis is gone. So it's really kind of Ryan Braun and the eight Musketeers. So they're not going to score a lot of runs, but their pitching might be decent enough to keep some of their games close.
So we'll move on to the three teams that won north of 140 games last year. At least that's what it felt like. Far and away, really the best division in a long time in baseball. And we'll start with the Pittsburgh Pirates. Of course, Pittsburgh, St. Louis, and the Cubs all were very good last season. What should Cubs fans fear most about the Pirates?
Well, the Pirates obviously, center their offense around Andrew McCutchen, who's one of the best players in the game. He's an MVP candidate every year. They've lost a couple of guys from their offense from last year. Pedro Alvarez was never a great hitter, but he does hit some home runs. So they'll miss a little bit of that. They'll miss Neil Walker at second base. But they've still got some very good other players at other positions. They'll get Jung-Ho Kang back from that leg injury he suffered last year. Josh Harrison is a good hitter. Gregory Polanco is a very good young hitter who will only get better. So that offense is pretty strong. On the other hand, the Pirates, the bottom of the Pirates pitching staff is going to be something to watch out for. You've got obviously Garrett Cole, who is one of the better pitchers in the league. Francisco Liriano is a solid rotation piece, but they let Jay Happ go, and they let Charlie Morton go, so they're going to try and resurrect the carcass of Ryan Vogelsong, see if he's any good. They got John Neese from the Mets in the Neil Walker trade. So the bottom of the Pirates' rotation is going to be maybe a little bit iffy. On the other hand, their bullpen is very good. So if those guys can get, if the starters can get into the seventh inning, I think that the Pirates are going to win a lot of games again.
Yeah, I think Pedro Alvarez ended up going to the Orioles. So the Orioles, who are, of course, not in this division, seem like they either want to hit a home run or strike out at this point.
Exactly. That's exactly right.
But what do the Pirates do that other medium market teams, maybe even small market teams at this point, might be able to do to be successful, just to mimic the Pirates?
It took them a long time. They were 20 years without a winning record, and they had some management teams in there that weren't really that good at drafting. They made a lot of number one draft picks that just didn't work out at all. But, then they started picking guys like Walker and McCutchen, and they started building an organization, kind of the way the Cubs have done it. And they had some real good luck with free agent signings like Francisco Liriano. They made a trade. They let Russell Martin go with their free agency, but they made a trade and got Francisco Cervelli, who turned out to be really good behind the plate. So, now they have a management team in place that seems to know what they're doing. Clint Hurdle's a pretty good manager, so I kind of compare them in that way to the Royals, what the Royals have done, and in producing a lot of good young players from their system. It takes time, obviously, and you have to have the right people in place. But the Pirates are obviously doing it in a small market, and they're successful. The fans have come back in big numbers.
I want to remind our listeners we're with Al Yellon of Bleed Cubbie Blue. We're going to move on to my second favorite team in all of baseball behind the Tigers, the team which has won the division for 37 years in a row, it seems like, the Cardinals. They lost the Cardinals to the Cubs, of course, and we'll talk about the effect on that team later, but they're projected by Pacoda to not even make the playoffs this time. Is this the year the Cardinals finally fall back to the pack?
I could see that. In many ways, the Cardinals were very lucky last year with all the injuries they had, especially their pitching staff, and they still managed to win 100 games. On the other hand, the Cubs and Pirates played much better than the Cardinals did in the second half. So Cardinals ran out to a big early lead and kind of coasted into that 100-win season. They obviously lost Jason Hayward and Don Lackey to the Cubs, and Cardinal fans are not real happy about that. I'm sure you're aware of that.
Yes.
It's not just that, it's not just that Hayward and Lackey left as free agents; it's that they went to the Cubs.
Right.
So that's a double whammy there. They've had some injury issues. You know that Johnny Peralta is now out for a couple of months. That's not going to be easy for them to replace. Matt Holliday's getting older and just never seems to be 100% healthy. We don't know whether Yadier Molina is going to make it to opening day. Obviously, Adam Wainwright returning is going to be a big deal for them if he's the old Adam Wainwright. And then, we'll see how it works. I don't want to, come around and say the Cardinals are going to miss the playoffs, but it will be tougher for them this year than in past years.
And they always, and we've talked about it endlessly on the show, they always seem to, it doesn't matter who's injured, they can almost not field a team and win 90. It's bizarre how they do that.
That's what it seemed like, but, maybe this is the year that kind of thing stops.
Yeah, at some point it has to. The Cubs, of course, they're seemingly set up for long-term success. Are the Cardinals the biggest threat to the Cubs long-term, or is there another team in better position to contend over the next 5 to 10 years?
Well, you look at the Pirates, and if they can keep it going in the small market that they're in, maybe they're the biggest threat. I really don't see it from the Reds or Brewers. Again, one of the things that gets teams to be able to compete is to get a big local TV deal. We saw that what happened with the Diamondbacks. They signed a big local TV deal. What do they use the money for? They went out and signed Zach Greinke when nobody expected that. So
right.
in Pittsburgh or Cincinnati or Milwaukee, any of those markets can get a big local TV deal. Then they'll have the money to spend. The Cardinals have just signed a fairly big local TV deal, so they could have the money to continue to compete. The Cubs are hopefully going to have a big TV deal within the next 2 or 3 years if the cable bubble doesn't burst first. If the Cubs get that big money, they should be able to sustain this kind of winning.
So moving on to the Cubs, Lee lives closer to the Double-A team of the Cubs, so I get to see a lot of their young stars come up through the system. Todd actually lives closer to Miami, so I actually live closer to a major league team than he does at this point. But the Cubs are full of young stars in the field, but the current starting pitching staff is not as young. Does Chicago have enough starting pitching depth this season, or do you see them possibly making a trade for an established starter? And the sub-question to that is, there's a lot of pitching talent on the farm. Are the Cubs just waiting for that to blossom?
Well, you never know, of course, what's going to happen, who's going to become available, whether there'll be injuries or not. The Cubs have stacked some depth, starting depth, in the bullpen, actually. Over the last couple of years, we've seen guys like Eric Jokic and Dallas Buehler come up from Iowa, and those guys are just like, they weren't really very good. But now the Cubs have Travis Wood, Clayton Richard, Trevor Cahill, and Adam Warren, who will all be in the bullpen. All 4 of those guys have had success as starters in the major leagues. So if somebody gets hurt, one of those 4 guys will step in to the rotation. And you have instead of having a AAA starter replace somebody injured, you'll have somebody who does have major league success as a starter. So that's one thing they have piled up is depth in the rotation. And I think they can handle any. Of course, you hope that people don't get hurt, so they can handle any injuries that happen. And it's good to see what happens in midseason. If they feel like there's a guy they can go out and get, and it won't cost too much in terms of prospects, maybe they'll do that.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. It's funny because I wish they just had a better manager who knew how to use the bullpen. I'm joking, of course, obviously. Every team wants to have Joe Madden as their manager, I think, at this point. Chris Bryant fulfilled expectations last year in his rookie season. I mean, did he put up Mike Trout numbers? No, of course not, but he had a great rookie season. What is his ceiling, do you think?
Well, I mean, Chris Bryant's ceiling is to continue what he's been doing, be an all-star every season. I think he just kind of scratched the surface. And one of the things that I really liked about Bryant's rookie year is that he had a real tough time in July. He had a bad month. He was in a slump for a while, and then he made the adjustments, and he had the last 2 months of the year, he was just pounding the ball all over the place. So this is kind of what he did in both AA and AAA. Struggled a little bit at first, then dominated the level, and now he seems to have figured out the major leagues. Now, obviously, other teams' pitchers are going to make adjustments to Chris Bryant. Then it's up to him to keep making these adjustments. I think he's a smart enough player, and he's a very hard worker, and he will do that. You hate to say a guy who's played 1 year in the majors has potential Hall of Fame talent, but maybe he does. I still think long term his future's got to be in the outfield. He's 6'5", and a guy that tall who's at third base on a regular basis, if he's going to be bending down for ground balls all the time, it's going to cause back problems, and you don't want to see that. So, maybe not right away, but maybe in, let's say, 2 to 3 years, if the Cubs can find another good third baseman, then you might think about moving Bryant to the outfield. I
just want to comment, Lee's comment that he lives closer to a major league team than I do. I actually live in the Clevelander Promenade section of Marlins Park, and he's right. He lives closer to a major league team than I do.
And the Cleveland Indians beat the Cubs today, so that at least on a major league field.
True. So finally, we're talking again about Jason Hayward. So how big is the signing of Hayward for the Cubs?
Well, one thing that I've seen from Hayward so far this spring is excellent defense, and that's really his best value is his defense, both in the way he goes after balls, the way he can throw accurately. So he could be considered the best defensive right fielder in baseball, and that has tremendous value. I would like to see him hit for a little bit more power. He did have 1 year where he had 27 home runs for the Braves, so the talent is obviously there to do it. He hasn't done that for the last couple of years. One of those years, he missed some games with injuries. He's still only 26. I'd like to see him, become maybe a 20-homer guy on a consistent basis, and I certainly think he has the talent to do that. If he can do that, then there could be no stopping these guys. And
which young player besides Hayward do you see as having the biggest impact on the Cubs this season?
Well, I'm looking at Addison Russell. Russell had a pretty good year. The year that Russell had in a lot of seasons could have been a Rookie of the Year season. But because of Bryant and guys like Matt Duffy and Noah Syndergaard, there were so many good rookies in the National League last year that Russell didn't even get any votes. But he put up a pretty decent year in 13 home runs, and he was only 21 years old. So here he comes into his age 22 season, a year where a lot of guys at his experience level are still playing in Double-A, and he's already got a full year of major league experience. So I could look for a possible big breakout season for Addison Russell.
And obviously the Cubs are extremely well managed. They've got tons of talent, as we've said. They've got tons of talent in the upper management. Farm system is stocked. Team is obviously really good. We don't want to jinx things, of course. I mean, I totally respect the Cubs. Even though I'm a Cardinals fan, I totally respect the Cubs, so I do not ask to jinx this. What are the chances that they don't win a World Series, say, within the next 5 years? I mean, don't they almost have to?
It's really hard to say. Playoffs are such a crapshoot that anybody can. You get in and you can go very far. Not last year's Royals, but the 2014 Royals showed you how you can sneak in as a wild card and go all the way to Game 7 of the World Series. So it's not just talent. There is a little bit of luck involved, but I think the fact that this team seems primed to be a playoff team, every year for the next 3 to 5 years, you'd think that one of those would end up in a World Series win. And, that's, of course, what every Cub fan has wanted for, many, 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 many years.
And I have to say the Cubs fans absolutely deserve it. I mean, what a show place that place is, and the fans are a big part of that, too. I mean, seriously, it's great. Such a great place to catch games. Al, thanks so much for being on. You're terrific as always. Where can our seven listeners, where can you be found on the interwebs?
You can go to bleedcubbieblue.com, of course, the website, and then Twitter is @bleedcubbieblue, and also there's a Bleed Cubbie Blue Facebook page, so check us out.
And that was none other than Al Yellon of bleedcubbieblue.com. I want to thank Al for joining us in a pre-recorded interview. We are back with the live podcast. Todd, EJ, and Ted are live. I guess Lee is somewhere lurking in the Charleston area.
He's lurking on the Twitter.
On the Twitter. All right.
Twitter.
We have one pressing question that remains. We've blown through the budget. We're sorry. There's no super PACs around here for us. So
Damn right.
We quickly want to go into our pressing baseball question of the week, and it's, why is Goose Gossage so angry? I guess we'll open it up with Mr. Todd Vandenberg first. Why is Goose Gossage so angry, Todd?
Yeah, he's old school. I mean, as he made clear, he doesn't like people hot dogging, and he called out just about everybody who shows off. But baseball's entertainment. I mean, I totally get where he's coming from. Back in the day, when a certain gentleman on the New York Jets defensive line did his sack dance and constantly celebrated, for the 12 times he did his job for the entire year, and he thought he was God because he managed to do that. Whereas Joe Klecko, who is 10 times better, just did his damn job on every play.
Yep.
Damn, I hated Klecko for doing that. Bastard. Why do you always do that to the Dolphins? Anyway, I don't really care for the hot dogging that much. To me, I'd prefer the Barry Sanders method of is like, hey, I did my job. Here's the ball, ref. Thank you very much.
Todd, you're that guy? Really?
But
okay.
I prefer that. But it doesn't bother me when someone celebrates. I mean, celebration is great. I don't like, the whole. There's a point where you can carry it too far. But it's interesting to me that, and this is not Goose Gossage at all, but it's interesting to me that people gave Cam Newton so much utter crap for his, apparently to me, extremely authentic, joyful celebrations. My God, he's doing what he wants to do for a living. He's being terrific at it, obviously, because he's the MVP. Why shouldn't he be happy about it? Why shouldn't he celebrate? And like I said, I would rather people just act like, hey, it's my job. But if they're celebrating, let them celebrate. I'm just saying, for me, I would do it the other way. Like I would ever be, a champion in anything. It's like I barely can make it through a podcast. But, Goose has earned the right to say what he thinks, and he certainly has the right to think how he thinks. But I would never get out there and say, well, these guys, they don't respect the game. Yes, they respect the game. You know how they respect the game? Because they play the game. They play the game to win. That's how you respect the game. What you do when you celebrate, you flip the bat. I don't care if Batista flips the bat out of the stadium. He should celebrate. That was a big moment. So, I think it's there's not been enough to talk about in spring training until the whole thing came up with the White Sox. So this was a hot little moment for people to talk about something in spring training. That's what it amounts to. So Goose has the right to his opinion. I think maybe he went a little too far with it, but he's an old, angry guy. That's okay. Yeah, as far as I'm concerned, I wouldn't celebrate like that. But, hey, sports is entertainment. That's part of it.
Amen. Let me say for the record, I am so pro bat flipping. Like I love bat flipping. I think bat flipping is the greatest thing ever. So the fact that people get pissed about that kind of stuff is like, really, dude? I mean, look, I get the unwritten rules in baseball, but come on, man. I am so pro bat flipping. I'm sorry. I used to love Barry Bonds used to do it. Like, he hit a home run and he'll hold a bat there for a couple seconds. Like, yep, that's what I'm talking about. I love that. I think it's amazing. There is a time where it gets annoying. In the NFL, when you get a sack or a tackle, like you have a cornerback celebrating a routine tackle, that's a little bit over the top. I get that, but come on, it's gonna have fun. I'm with Bryce Harper here, man. I think you need to let loose some of these old school rules and let these people live, man. Come on, it's entertainment at the end of the day, man. I mean, you were paying tickets. Look, if the majority of fans like this kind of stuff and we're paying for your salaries, come on, let it go and let it happen.
I just want to chime in, not from the left, not from the right, but this is the problem. That's what's wrong with baseball. This is the problem. That's what's wrong with baseball, because Goose Gossage is allowed to be a soundbite every year. Come in, spew whatever he's going to spew. Yes, he's old school. Yes, we respect. Yes, the Goose is loose. Yes, we remember those battles against George Brett. And we loved it. But the Yankees have always been an uptight organization, as long as you can remember. They were the corporation. There's baseball, and then there's the Yankees. They're kind of like, hey, we're not part of that. We're the Yankees. We're our own entity. They're kind of like how the Cowboys are, and you can go through the different sports franchises where how the Lakers and the Celtics stand out. So that's that regime. That's the way they live their lives. No facial hair, no this, no that. But baseball itself has changed, just like any other sport. We got to respect it. And don't you want to see a little emotion? Don't you want to? I mean, when Batista does his due, when Cespedes did it in the NL championship game, I believe against the Dodgers. He smacked that three-run home run.
NLDS. That was awesome, by the way. That was awesome.
NLDS, sorry. Did the bat flip. The stadium itself started playing the theme music for The Natural and started shooting off fireworks. They're doing it to get the fans charged, to get you in that feeling. That's baseball. And on a prep show, we were talking, and I said, I tried to tie the two, Oscar Robertson talking about Steph Curry, the old B-ballers talking about Steph Curry and downplaying him. But Todd was quickly to correct me. Ted, two different topics, two different things. I just still think these old school players, we don't play like that anymore. It's okay to let the emotion go. It's okay that, I don't know if it's a case of money. I don't know if it's the case of social media and fame and, everything's now. But we love baseball. We're passionate about baseball. And we're okay. As fans, we like to see that. We don't want you to be a robot. So I guess, and here's the one thing that I'm going to say that's going to piss off everyone. The fact that Goose Gossage, he made these comments, and was it politically correct or not? Does he say anything about, does it transcend into other sports? We all bash Cam Newton, but we celebrate J.J. Watt. We got to look at ourselves right now. I think Bryce Harper hit it on the head. It's time for emotion. It's time to do these type of things. It's time to get, the national pastime. I can't wait. And I think it's 2 or 3 weeks. I'm going to be at Citi Field for opening day. And there's nothing like going to opening day. Guys, we love the sport. We love everything about the sport. Don't take it away from us. Stop making all these rule changes. Let the game be fun for the fans. Hey, we're the reason why these stadiums are 40,000 and 50,000 deep to support our teams. That's
Amen,
my closing on the topic. There was no sermonette. There was no the choir didn't sing after I said those comments. But with that, we're going to close out Baseball Beer and Barbecue. We want to thank special guest host EJ Christian of the Earnestly Speaking podcast. EJ, tell us, where can we find you? Our billions and billions of fans on the Happy Hour Network, we already listened to you, but what are the other ways to get in contact with you?
Obviously, shout out to Lee, of course. Let me take a seat for for an hour or so. So in honor of that, find me on the Twitter at EJChristian7. Find the podcast on iTunes, obviously, Stitcher Radio, NGC Sports, and especially the Happy Hour Network. Thank you guys once again for having me on the show and supporting the show. Of course, I had a phenomenal time. It's so funny how a few weeks ago I was saying, I want to be on the show and be a guest because I love the show. I listen to it every week, and now I actually got to co-host the show to you guys in general. It's a dream come true, man. It's a dream come true. I had a good time. I had a really good time with you guys today. Great topic. I'm glad we talk politics too. This is actually almost like my show today. Great. Great.
It is like I said, it's great. We love your show. We love you being a part of the network, regardless whether it's podcast, archive format, or the live show. We love your co-hosts, all of them, everyone that you always have joined, and we love to hear the voice of the fan and all the above. I can't stop talking about your show. It's really, really great.
We just mentioned live. We might be bringing it back very soon. We might do a live show this coming Thursday. I haven't cleared it yet with some of my guys. I'm making sure the schedule works out. But we might do a live show this upcoming Thursday. We might still do more live shows going forward. I think we're going to use the Periscope. I'm actually right now here filming Periscope and or the Facebook outlets also as well alongside with the live show here on
Gotcha.
the network. Open this shit up, man. Open this stuff up, you know. So
yes,
yeah, we might be doing a live show next Thursday most likely. So look out for that on the network.
Hey Todd, I want to let you know, Lee is going to be so pissed because we went 75 minutes, a supersized show.
Is he one of those people that gets all picky about time, Lee?
Nah, he doesn't. He's great.
No.
He's great. Ask me offline, all right? Hey, we're going to close out the show with our baseball outro. Todd, we love you. EJ, we love you. And Lee.
You guys, thank you.
That was awesome, EJ. Thank you so much.
Of course.
Thank you so much.
The fans hoping to catch a little bit of the old-time religion right here, baby. With Junior stepping up to the plate. Here comes the stretch. And the pitch to Junior on the way. Swing and a fly ball into deep right center field. That baby is going to be fly away. The old-time religion lives. Junior does it. A 2-run home